and welcome to Extra Hot the Grill, another episode where we're going to be chatting to some artists to find out more about their music, what they're doing, and their journey with God. Today, I'm so excited to introduce, we've got Kingdom Rapper from Nottingham, representing the UK. So welcome to the show, Kingdom Rapper UK. This is exciting. Now tell us, I want to hear about you. Just tell us about who you are, the genre of music you create, and how long you've been making music for.
Yeah, so you've already stated my name. So Kingdom. I've been making music, like seriously, I've been making music and putting it out there for probably about 10 years now.
Wow.
But I'd say I've been creating for about 20 years. As that sounds crazy for me saying that now. And genre of music, I don't know. I kind of make music and then people slip it into whatever genre they think it sounds like. I make music and I roll with whatever the vibe is, whatever my heart tells me to go with. So a lot of gospel, rap predominantly, but you can probably catch me on some other flavors as well.
Yeah, you definitely got some grime in there as well. It's dope. I've been loving your music. I've been loving it. So tell me, who inspired you with your music? Like, has there been specific artists or people that have inspired you, especially with your style as well? Who's been inspiring you?
I mean, when I started, I suppose the first thing that kind of like got me into music, maybe it was like, you know what, it was my mum. Like my mum was as a teenager, I was having a bit of a tough time. I was kind of going through the mill. I was getting a bit bullied at school and stuff, and there was a bit of madness going off at home. And my mum went out one day, back in the day, to Virgin mega stores.
Oh my gosh.
So and she just said to one of the workers there, my son needs some music, some rap music to listen to. I think he's really getting into his rap. Who would you recommend? And they said Eminem.
Oh wow, yeah.
That was the first artist that I listened to, and when I listened to his CD, it was all about kind of his pain, a bit of mixed pain with comedy, family life, his relationships, his struggles, his ups and downs. So originally it was kind of like Eminem that inspired me to start making music. That was the kind of the going in kind of start for me. And then from then, through the years, I've come across so many different artists that I've really related to and stuff, and that have really kind of inspired me to kind of to delve deeper into it and to stay on it and just to make music.
Because I love with Eminem, he, like you said, he shares that pain and the suffering part, and he's so raw with it in his tracks. You really grasp the depth of his experience of life and the suffering within that. Sometimes in music, especially in rap, we can gloss over that and it's like mentioned but not actually really brought out. It's almost like a therapy session, isn't it? But it's exciting, man. It's amazing. I mean, that makes sense that you were inspired by Eminem because you're quite raw with your experience.
Yeah, like I like to think I put my heart out there. I make myself vulnerable so others around me or people who listen to my music can feel it's okay to be vulnerable and it's okay to talk about, your highs and your lows and to keep it real, and so people can heal each other through that process.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that we certainly did that, listening to his first CD in my bedroom, and kind of a lot of it, some of it was really kind of like, don't get me wrong, some of it was pretty hardcore. And there was a lot of swearing in it, and there was a lot of kind of drug references and stuff, which probably wasn't the greatest thing, but it was real, and it was his story, it was what he was going through, and a lot of it in terms of his relationships and stuff, and the bullying side of it and stuff, I related to. So I kind of felt like, wow, there's someone making music right now who's really putting it all out there, and it's okay to kind of like to let people know you're not okay.
It almost gives that permission, doesn't it, for you to say, oh, actually this is really hard, and for males specifically, that needs to happen more often, doesn't it? Because it doesn't happen enough for men to feel that permission to feel their feelings.
We feel like we've got to be like strong quite a lot of the time. But No, we've got hearts just the same way as females, and you know, we cry about females. We all cry, and we all hurt. We all smile. Yeah.
Now, during lockdown, like I've always asked this question, like, how has lockdown been for artists? Because some it's been like, you know what, it's pushed them into their music. Now, for you, from what I saw of your journey, it really blew up for you in a really amazing way. That you were in the papers with your story specifically, and you were in BBC. You got on their radio a little bit. I'd love to hear your story, and if you could share with us briefly your story that really has it's really captured people's attention, I've seen in lockdown. So I'd love to hear your story briefly of finding faith, your journey with music with that as well, and how that's helped shape it.
Yeah, we've got a bit of time, yeah?
Yep, go for it.
It was as I said, getting into music, it was an escape for me. So like, music was an escape. It was a way for me to kind of like just lock off, headphones on, and really like kind of really explore different things. And as I progressed a little bit, I hit the streets. I started rapping, and I hooked up with some guys at college, and we all started kind of vibing off each other. Then from there, I kind of got into drugs, like smoking weed and drinking and experimenting with other things as well. And it kind of put me into, for about 10 years, it kind of it was escapism, and it was kind of like, it was probably hurting me a lot more than it hurt me a lot more than I actually realized what was happening. And I think I got very lost. I kind of lost who I was. I was very scared, very worried a lot of the time, very fearful of people. And I spent a lot of time kind of just wanting to be accepted, wanting people to like me, using rap as a way for people to like me and to entertain people. But then it got to a point where I was going to church and stuff on the side, as well as kind of being in the streets and in the clubs and in the studios and stuff. I was finding myself in a church on a Sunday, but not for the sermons and stuff. It was really more for a safe space for me, where I could be left alone a little bit, and people were just nice to me, and I could have I could just have a bit of peace for a couple of hours on a Sunday. But then as I delved deeper and deeper into the world that I was in, I got more and more into like badness and stuff, and like I was robbing people. I was robbing people so I could smoke weed, so I could buy clothes so I could look the part, and it got really dangerous, kind of like the things what I was living for and the things that just my lifestyle, it got really dangerous. I started hanging around with some kind of serious people who were selling hard drugs and just kind of like, women, meeting with women in like hotel rooms and stuff, and then being in the back of cars and dropping drugs off and stuff, and it was pretty hardcore. And then it got to a point, I was in a toxic relationship for about 4 years, and I participated in that as well because of how I was living and my outlook and my respect levels and everything like that. I contributed to a toxic relationship, and by the end of that, I'd put myself in some debts through trying to sell weed. This is where it started, where I really found God. I put myself in a £2,000 debt. So basically, I'd done a drug run to Liverpool, and someone had stole all the drugs off me, and it left me with a £2,000 debt. And I got given an option of either finding a way to get that back before I came back to Nottingham, or getting shot. Those were my options.
This is like a movie. They should make a movie of your life, honestly.
It was crazy. Like it was crazy. I was in Liverpool at the time, and I can remember like putting a bag down of drugs, which was worth about close to £2,000, and it being stolen, and being so scared, like, what is going to happen now? And then I was given those options of what to do, and I just cried, because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going deeper in now. I'm kind of locked into it now, because I've got to make this money back for this person. And basically, I just couldn't do it. So I ran like Jonah a little bit, probably not for the same reason.
Yeah.
But, I ended up running, and I ended up hiding, and I ended up ducking and dodging, and it led me into doing some crazy things to try and get the money back. And you know what? I just couldn't do it anymore. So one day, I was staying at someone's house, and I was in a bedroom upstairs, and I just come to my wit's end. I just couldn't do it anymore, and I'm visualizing this now as I say.
Yeah.
I can remember lying on my side on this mattress on the floor, and I just cried. I literally cried my eyes out like a baby in the fetal position, and I prayed. Like it was my first. I would say that was my first real cry out for help. A human being couldn't help me. It had to come some other way, like supernatural. I had to have some kind of intervention. So I cried out to God. I said, I apologized. I kind of had a confession of everything I was doing and how wrong it was, and how I didn't want to live the life I was living, how I was scared, and all the rest of it. And the next day came, and my phone rang. It was my mum. I wasn't really talking to my mum at the time because of how I was living. I just kind of locked off a little bit. And she phoned me and said that £2,000 had been posted through the letterbox of her house in £20 notes with my government name on it, Benjamin. So I couldn't comprehend how that had happened. I went then, like, just cried my eyes out, left the house where I was staying with a gym bag, and I walked from Bulwell to Gedling. If anyone knows Nottingham, he knows how far that is. That's about 9 miles.
Oh my gosh!
Crazy. And I paid my debt off. And then I still didn't learn my lesson there though, because I was kind of giddy. I was like, oh, it's finished. The drama's over. Thank you, God. But because I'm still so set in my ways, and I've been doing what I was doing for the last 10 years. I hadn't fully appreciated, as mad as it is, what you had done for me. So fast forward a little bit, I got into this relationship after that, and 4 years into that, I had basically had I hope you don't judge me for this.
No, you carry on.
I basically had this big argument. I got told to leave and stuff, and I ended up robbing someone on the street who was selling drugs. So basically doing to someone what
someone did to you.
Yeah, just the cheek of it. And it was £50, but that £50 got me a big lesson. And basically a couple of days later, there was a knock at the door, and there was 5 lads like with hoodies up, with kind of like they hadn't come round for a cup of tea.
No.
And this lad said, I need to speak to you. So I let this lad in because I knew who he was, and he ended up putting a gun to my leg in the porch of the house that I was in. There was a baby next door with the girl that I was with at the time, and he basically just said to me, "You've done something. I've come round to sort it. I could shoot you in your leg right now and teach you a lesson." And again, at that time, I prayed in my heart. And the only prayer I had was, soften his heart, soften his heart, soften his heart, soften his heart.
Oh, and, my gosh.
He ended up asking me to put the kettle on and make a cup of tea. So, like, I put the kettle
That
on.
is a softened heart instantly from a gun to a cup of tea, you know.
It was crazy. It was crazy. And I put this lad was 17 at the time, and I was 26. So this is a young lad telling me about my, and he basically reminded me of some good stuff I had done in the hood. Basically, because I used to do voluntary. Even throughout everything I was doing.
Yeah.
There was some good. There was good in me, and I used to do voluntary and help kids write lyrics. And I used to go to talent shows and encourage kids. and then on the side I was being an idiot.
Yeah.
And he reminded me of the stuff that I had done, and that the life I was living didn't suit me, and that I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing, and I should probably go back to where I'm from and live the life you're supposed to live.
Yeah.
And you know what? I took his advice, and I went and paid him his money back a couple of weeks later, because I had to wait to get paid.
Yeah.
And I went back to my mum and dad's house with my tail between my legs and started to rebuild my life. And I went to a church group which was being held in a bar in town, and I just spent every other Tuesday on a fortnight crying my eyes out in this church group, kind of trying to get healing. And and then a pastor of the church, kind of got in contact with me from Trent Vineyard, and he basically said, listen, your brother said that you've gone through some stuff, and that at the minute you're at your mum and dad's, and that you could do with a friend. Why don't you come and meet me? So I met him, and that transpired into me going to Soul Survivor. And I went to Soul Survivor, and then I joined this little small group, and they took me on a weekend away, and they looked after me. Then someone gave me a job as an electrician apprentice, all in the space of like 6 months. And then I did discipleship year at Trent, which is basically you serve the church for a year.
Yeah.
And I did this all in the space of the same year where the gun had been put to me. I took those chances. I grabbed it with both hands, and I started connecting, and I gave my life to God. I got baptized in that year in the November, and I've never looked back. I changed my name. I used to go by the name of Benny Blanco, which was just like, you know.
Yeah, that's your gangster name.
Yeah, and someone said to me, you should be doing this for the kingdom. Like God gave you bars for the kingdom. He gave you bars to kind of help people like you, and you should be a vessel, mate, an open vessel for him to flow through, and you should be telling your story to people to stop people getting it.
Yeah.
And that's what I've done ever since. You know, it's funny, Sandeep. Sorry, a week before I was supposed to go to Soul Survivor, I broke about 3 toes on my foot, and it nearly stopped me going. And I got healed at Soul Survivor by a lad with cerebral palsy who grabbed my foot and prayed for me in front of loads of people at my church, and he healed my foot there and then. And I put my trainer on, threw away my crutches, ran around the marquee like an absolute madman.
Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And I just seen God's work. Ever since that, in radical ways, I've seen God's work and God's love, God's grace, and God, and you know how He never lets you down, and how He always got forgiveness. Yeah. And that's me. That's how I came to Christ, and that's how I gave my life. And I'm
my gosh!
6 years later.
I've got goosebumps listening to your story. I'm not joking. All I kept thinking then, as soon as you started talking about once you went to Soul Survivor and how God was just showing up in all these radical, crazy ways to be like, it was just, I was thinking of that thing of stepping out of darkness and stepping into light. But actually you had to make that step. You had to step out from what you were doing and step into what He had. And that's it's a leap of faith, isn't it? Because we don't know what God's going to do. You know, we can think and dream.
I used to cuss Christians, like, you know, for the first time I was probably like, you know, I wasn't stoning Christians like
Paul.
But I was good. Like, they don't have no fun. Yeah. You know, they don't get drunk. They don't smoke weed. They don't party. They don't shake their booty. They don't do none of this stuff. Like, it's like how do they have fun? And then I realised when I started living the life I'm living now, you know what? I got my life back. I got life. I got like authentic relationships. I got love for myself back. I got a lot of self-worth back. I've still got a long way to go, and there's still loads of things I struggle with, but I got some organic things that I never had that God showed me free. It's free, and you know what? It is all about these things that last to, you know, happiness lasts for the day, but joy's there in the morning as well. And I've got a lot of joy now in my life, which is amazing.
Your story is incredible, and it makes sense. You have to share it, like, because there's something about stories which are so powerful, because no one can deny your story because it's your story, and no one can say that didn't happen because it did happen. You're living proof of all this happening. Like,
there was as a witnesses to stuff as well, which is others saw like miracles happening because people saw it. Do you know what I mean? And some of the people around were baffled at how things were happening, and I was like, you know.
Do you know what I love as well? How real you are with sharing it. Like, you don't gloss it over with the word sin. You just say, I've had a gun put to me. I was stealing from people. I was, robbing people. I was with girls, whatever it was. I was doing drugs. You say what it is, and there's something so important with calling it out, so we get away from the religious jargon, because that's what people need. We need to get away from religious jargon and hear the realness of what happened in people's stories and just how God comes into that mess. And it sounds like in all that time, God was pursuing you because he knew the purpose he had for your life. So he was like, listen, Benji, get here. And he gives you he's so patient with you as well, isn't he? Like, you go back to a life and then he's still patient to be like, I know my son, he's going to come back. I know him. I see the end. Yeah. That's so powerful. I pray that more people will be impacted by your story, especially younger people, that may be already in that lifestyle as well. Like, it's so easy these days to get, with the wrong crowd and to be in these places.
Sometimes in a lot of ways though, I tell people, do not think, like I put in a song, the last song I put out, it's like I said, what was it, Iron Man, no Tony Stark, but this walk with faith ain't a walk in the park. This walk with faith is not a walk in the park.
Absolutely.
It's kind of like when you get your awakening and you really plug in and you know him. Listen, he asks things of you at times, which scares the daylight. I've just had that last week. I had to DJ Proclaimer, who I know is part of your account. I've spoken to him before we spoke. I've just been on the phone to him yesterday talking through struggles I've got in my heart.
What you're still working on.
Still working through. But and I know I need to push through, but it's hard and it's hard because I'm aware of kind of like the ramifications of my actions and like
the consequences.
Exactly, and what I can't do no more. And the world is is savage at times. The world we live in, the devil's real. Just like there is, we've got a beautiful Father in heaven, but the devil's rolling around like a lion, ready to take you out, and that sometimes comes in really nice, pretty forms. You have to stay so kind of.
It's the narrow path, isn't it? Like, it really is like walking with like a horse with your like blinkers on to say, do you know what? This is my direction. This I can ignore, but you know what? It's interesting because as well, it's like I was saying before, like you stepping into like, it's a continuous thing that the Bible talks about working out your salvation, and it's a lifelong thing. It's not like you make your decision and that's it, you're cured and you're healed and you're perfect. No, God's like, I'm going to walk with you every step. When the temptation comes, when the addiction comes, like, I'm going to be right there in the middle of it, pulling you forward towards me. And that's a walk with God. It's such a continuous thing. And it's amazing that you've got people like DJ Proclaimer that you can just call up and talk to. Do you know what I mean? And that's why we need one another in it as well.
Absolute community is unity, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely right. Absolutely. So with your music, now all your journey really comes through in your music. And like, how important is it for you now that you're creating music that has good messaging? Because a lot of the tracks I look for on the show that I'm reviewing, I always review them from a point of like, they're gospel tracks, right? How are they proclaiming the gospel, or what messages are they actually putting out there within the industry? So how important is it for you to create music now with good messaging for younger people and for people in general?
Yeah, imperative. Like I used to, a lot of music I used to make, I could whip up in 2 seconds and it would be like just, yeah man, I'm wavy. Ooh, yeah man, have a good time. Blah, blah, blah. And now struggle to do it, like, because I'm like, I have a chance every time I put something out there to make a difference. Like, I have a chance every time I put music out to create some healing for someone, or to guide someone into a better place, or to relate to someone who feels alone, or just or when I'm bringing it to a visual, I've got a chance now to get someone involved for that, and to, you know, shine a light on some people. And I just can't make music anymore that is, I think this is no diss to anybody or anything, because everyone's got their own little, but me personally, my music has to have a message now. It has to have some type of component in it that is going to initiate change, or open up a door in someone's heart, or in someone's brain. It's going to potentially lead someone to the Lord. It has to be a recipe for goodness. And listen, I might make a song. I just did a song which isn't out yet. I've got a project coming out, and I wrote a song called Dungeon, and it's about being in the depths of my own dungeon. It doesn't sound like the happiest song in the world, but it's got a lot of lessons learned throughout the song, and it's got a lot of realism in it, and it's got a lot of self-reflection, and it's the message. You know, it's the message. It's, you know, just like I said about the devil's real. He tries to attack me on a regular basis. And I'm not one of these people that every time something bad happens, it was the devil, it was the enemy. I don't do that. Sometimes I'm just a wally, and I make
He's like, oh, that was me that time. Absolutely. So with your latest, go on. What was you saying? I was gonna say, with your latest music. No, go on. You were gonna say something. You speak.
No, you.
Okay. With your latest music, tell us, what's the latest tracks you've got out? Tell us a bit about that and where people can be finding your music. So this is your time to plug yourself. Tell us where to get everything that you're doing and what your latest stuff is that's out at the moment. Yeah,
well, like obviously standard YouTube. All my videos are on YouTube and stuff. So you can always go onto my Kingdom Rapper YouTube channel and have a look at that. I've just put recently. You see, I do make contemporary music as well. So sometimes BBC Sport contacted me about a month ago and asked me to do a song for Nottingham, and I was like, great. I'll rap about my city for so long. I did a piece for BBC Two, which was an opening for the 100, a cricket tournament, and that was just all about the city I come from, and then I performed at Trent Bridge the other day. The piece 0115 is called, which is nothing to. It's not a gospel tune or anything, but it's a good
you're in places where you've got a sphere of influence. That God's placing you there for a reason, whether that's openly shown of like, hey, here's Jesus, or it's just, I'm here to just be a bit of light, and actually God's put me here because he wants to use me in whatever way that looks like. Like, that's amazing.
I'm here just to maybe be that song that you can bump in the car on your way to work. That's going to put you in a good place.
Absolutely.
So I've got the Changing Room LP, which dropped at the start of this year in February, which is on Spotify Music and blah blah blah. All the social platforms, and I've got something really exciting coming out, which I want to plug, which is just like I literally on a daily basis at the minute I get so gassed, not with myself, but just with the people that are going to be involved, with the impact potentially it have, bringing light to darkness. The song's called No Knives, No Blades, so it's basically anti-knife crime. But,
oh my gosh!
It's like no knives, no blades, just mics and rays. Choose life, no shade, no cells, no cage. And
oh my gosh!
I've partnered up with Nottingham College for it to basically get the whole of their performing arts department involved. And I've got Matthew Horn out of Gavin and Stacey. He's gonna come and he's gonna do some cameos for me, and I've got someone else as well that it just needs to be confirmed, but it's like I'm a big fan of this person, and I reached out to them and I said, would you get my video? And they said, yeah. Like, and just
is it Eminem?
No, it's not Eminem. It's not Eminem. It's someone who's gripped the nation recently with her acting in a series on BBC One.
Okay.
So like when that's confirmed, I'll put it out there. But
yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that. I'm looking forward to hearing about who that is.
And it's about initiating change. It's about role models. It's about making the right decisions. It's about thinking before you do, you know, in key moments in your life. It's about not being a sheep and just following the herd. No, it is about being a sheep because sheep are good. We are. You know what I mean? But I mean, not just following the wrong
blindly
kind of
following.
thing,
It's about knowing who you belong to as a sheep, isn't it?
There you go. Because you know, so that's going to come out. That video will be out within the next couple of months, I think.
Well, we'll be getting that on the show, so that's exciting. That's really good.
And I'm going to be leading worship with, jointly, Encounter, which is a Christian camp.
Yeah, I've heard of Encounter.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's kind of like recovery. It's kind of like for addicts and people struggling, and people who don't. A lot of the people that go there don't know God, don't know.
Yeah,
Jesus,
it's for a lot of people on the fringe, isn't it? Really.
Yeah. Jim Harper runs that with Purge down in Worcester, which I'm super excited about because that just means I get to walk around and talk and meet new people, and we get to learn from one another, and I get to rap because I love rapping.
Oh, that's going to be amazing.
There's a lot. There's
a lot going on.
Yeah. There's a lot happening. Yeah, I'm just blessed. I'm just always blessed for like these little opportunities that I have to be able to carry on doing what I'm doing and doing what I love to do.
Yeah.
So and there's another project coming as well. I've got another project coming out which will probably be like December, January. But it's probably, I mean, I say this every time I put something out. It's like the best thing I've ever done. Like,
Every project, the best one yet.
The best one. This one.
Yeah.
I'm bumping some of the stuff that's been mixed and mastered and sent back to me, and I'm like, I can't wait to put this out. Times, good vibes.
That's so amazing. Listen, I am so glad I got this chance to actually hear your story, to platform it as well. Like, this actually feels like a real privilege for me to actually just meet you and get to hear about you and get to put this out on Affinity Xtra. Like, seriously, like, God's hand is so on your life, and it's amazing of where he's brought you from and where he's taking you. There's so much that's going to be happening for you, it sounds. And man, I'm flipping excited to just watch your journey, mate. Like, it's so good. So thank you so much for joining me today. And listen, when you've got your new tracks out, we'll be reviewing them again on the show because we're loving your music at Affinity Xtra on our Extra Hot show. It's been so good. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It's been great talking to you as well. And I love Brummies as well. So there you go.
I love it. Yes. It's amazing. I love it. What was that? Say that again.
So I can't get away from it.
There you go. Part of your life. That's it. That's brilliant. Well, you take care, bro, and I'll see you soon. Bye.
You too. See you in a bit.
Right, stay on. I'm just going to stop recording. Right, let me stop recording.
Visit us for updates and shows at affinityxtra.co.uk.